Hello, comrades. Today, my guest is Marcin Osadowski, a Polish patriot and organizer of the biggest anti-war demonstration in Poland. So, hello, Marcin.
Hi, Michał. Hello, world. How are you?
Firstly, I will say that Marcin, he is not communist. But
Yeah.
today, the most important problem for the working class in Poland is Polish involvement in war in Ukraine. And as we see in Ukraine, that in the time of this war, it is especially problem for the working class because the rich Ukrainians, the oligarch and other rich guys, they are abroad and it's working class who are going to this war and more than 100,000 or even 200,000 Ukrainians working class already die in this stupid war. So in this time, the most important is building the anti-war coalition, and I can say that it is similar situation to the war in China in the time when we have civil war between the Communist Party of China and Kuomintang, in the time when the Japan imperialism attacked China. Communists and nationalists were together against Japan imperialists. So today we are the communists, me and Marcin Osadowski.
Hi, Michał. Nice to hear you, and I hope I can answer for all your questions.
Of course, unfortunately, we need to use the language of the imperialist from the USA, but it is
But
also
is
in.
but is not the most popular language on the world. The probably most popular language in the world is Chinese because almost one on seven people or maybe six people use that.
Yes, you have absolutely right. But to contact with the anti-war movement in our continent, unfortunately, we need to use this language, which normally is used by the banksters and imperialists. I prepared some question, but firstly, I would like to say that Marcin Osadowski also is a friend of Wojciech Olszański, known
Yeah.
also in Poland like Aleksander Jabłonowski. It's him, the most famous leader of this patriot movement. Now he is in prison,
Yeah.
but he can be with us virtually.
Yeah, virtually, of course.
Could you call him?
Yeah. Alex, come here and sit down. He's
Oh,
there.
it's here. So, hello, Wojciech.
In truth, that is pre-recorded. His body about a year ago, just in case, and that is case.
So it's only shown that the real force of the patriot movement with Marcin Osadowski
Mm.
is that you are a very good technician. You
Oh, thank you
organize a
very
lot of stream, and it's good quality. It's much more better than the production of communist movement. So I will prepare. I will start the question which I
much.
prepared before. So you are organizer of the big demonstration which took place on the street of Warsaw on January 19 under the slogan "This is not our war." Marcin, can you explain to our non-Polish viewers the scale of support for Ukraine by the Polish government and what it means for an ordinary Pole? How many tanks and cannons did Poland send to Ukraine? What are the economic costs of the sanction imposed on Russia and Belarus? How much has the price of gas, coal, and gasoline increased? How have the prices of apartments and room rentals increased in the largest Polish cities in the last year? How many Polish bakeries and restaurants have gone bankrupt due to the rising energy cost? In a word, how does the militarism of Duda and Morawiecki lead to impoverishment of the Polish society?
Oh, so many questions. So I try to answer step by step. Poland has officially been providing Ukraine with ammunition and military equipment since the beginning of the conflict in the Russo Ukrainian front a year ago. So far, the value of the officially transferred equipment and supplies has exceeded 2.2 billion euros. This amount does not include the promised Leopard 2 tanks. This corresponds to over 2% of Poland's GDP, which is higher than the annual budget of Poland allocated to the armed forces. According to calculations by experts, including this in the Institute for World Economic in Kiev, whose calculating also include only declared assistance. In absolute terms, Poland ranked fourth in the world last month, after the United States, United Kingdom, and Germany. And when we adjusted for GDP, for furthermore, a significant portion of the aid designated for Ukraine from countries all over the world is transported through Poland. And announced by Prime Minister Morawiecki on February 7th, Poland has transferred a total of around 250 tanks to Ukraine, mainly upgraded T-72 Soviet tanks, with plans to provide an additional 60 T-70 tanks and their Polish development version, PT-91 Twardy, as well as 14 Leopard 2 tanks produced by Germany. Additionally, a certain number of infantry fighting vehicles BWP-1 were sent to Ukraine in the spring of the last year. Um, Poland officially provided Ukraine with ammunition and military equipment since the beginning of the conflict in the Russo-Ukrainian front last year. So far, the value of the equipment and supplies officially exceeded, as I said, 2.2 billion euros. This amount does not include the promised Leopard 2 tanks. This corresponds to over 2% on Poland GDP, which, as I say, is higher than Poland's annual budget allocated to the armed forces. This is a very important fact. We can't forget about it. Poland has also provided Ukraine with anti-aircraft weapons, including handheld manpads Piorun, Polish manpads, self-propelled anti-aircraft missile launchers 9K-33 OSA, and S-125 Niva, which have been observed in use by Ukrainian military bloggers. Furthermore, at the end of January, Poland declared in the so-called Tallinn Declaration the transfer of Soviet S-60 anti-aircraft guns along with 70,000 rounds of ammunition to Ukraine, among other items. Ukrainian forces also received a certain number of drones for various purposes. Support in terms of equipment for Ukraine is also organized through private initiatives, including the acquisition, refurbishment, and transfer of all road vehicles to the Ukrainian army by private individuals, as well as crowdfunding campaigns for military equipment, such as, for example, Turkish combat drone Bayraktar TB2 last July, as well as Polish-produced surveillance drones Fly-Eye and loitering munitions Warmate. Much of the equipment provided by Poland to Ukraine is of Soviet origin, remaining in service with the Polish army since the times of Warsaw Pact. The Ministry of National Defense emphasizes that the gaps caused by transfer of equipment to Ukraine will be replenished with deliveries of modern equipment ordered, such as American Abrams tanks, South Korean K2 tanks, and self-propelled howitzers K9, as a part of ongoing technical modernization process in the Polish military. However, a serious problem is the fact that those official informations appears to be great in terms of propaganda. However, the reality is that the information that reaches us shows that the Polish military is still training on outdated, decades-old equipment, and there are reports from soldiers in some units that out of the 5 heavy trucks have in their inventory, 3 are not functional, and 1 is terrifying to drive, quoting an informant, of course. So we are deeply concerned about the state of the army, which, unlike other countries, is not using reserves for the war in Ukraine, but rather weakening its frontline combat equipment, to say the least, disarming the Polish army. We are closely monitoring this situation and with great concern. We are nothing the reckless and who knows, maybe even subservience of Polish politics towards Ukraine. Many signals from political observers indicate that the subservience is the result of the so-called Podkarpacie affair, so in Polish, afera podkarpacka, which has not been fully explained yet, where high-ranking politicians were allegedly recorded in a compromising situation in brothels in Podkarpacie. And now Poland is paying the highest price for this lack of self-control over impulses. If I were to evaluate them as an objective observers, I could say that the economic costs of sanctions are non-existent. Yes, I know how that sounds, but I say it with the full awareness of the words I am uttering. If we look at the energy carrier prices in wholesale markets, they are returning to levels of 3 years ago and are 2 to 3 times lower than in 2021 and early 2022. Look, I have the special graphics, and you can see that that is the price from 2020 to present time. We can see that the price is absolutely the same. The price is absolutely the same. So in that situation, however, prices in retail markets are horrendously high, as the propaganda of blaming Putin goes. Meanwhile, let's think about the truth. Where does it lie? If prices of energy carriers in wholesale markets are falling to the levels of 2 or 3 years ago, why do they remain so high? Here, in my opinion, the answer does not come from Moscow, but from the inept fiscal policies of the state and Euro-socialism. There are the consequences of massive inflation that resulted from the printing of empty money during the COVID period, uncontrolled spending on fighting the pseudo-pandemic spread by the self-out media hands. And attention, the most important thing, high energy carriers prices are the result of the crazy policies of eco-terrorist Euro bureaucrats. These people forget the education they received in primary school about, for example, photosynthesis, about the conversion of CO2 into the green mass. And they tell us that we have to pay for every ton of emitted CO2 to save and redeem the world. We are already paying 62 euros per ton, and this price is expected to rise dramatically. But this money came from these taxes, does not restore oxygen to the atmosphere. Plants do, just as they have done for millions of years. This money goes into the bag of Euro socialists for handouts, which plunges the whole of Europe into the economic crisis. And in this way, teeny Europe and Colorado in the USA are supposed to save the world? Meanwhile, the rest of the world emits over 90% of CO2 and does not care about it. This is sick and devoid of any logic. This whole pseudo-ecology based on the absurdity. Simply put, most of the production for European needs has been outsourced to the Asia. And it is Asia that emits the consumption-related CO2 of Europe, but due to the place of emission, is not attributed to Europe. And on the top of that, huge amounts of CO2 are emitted in transplantation over such long distance. Meanwhile, meanwhile, here we are being told that the crisis in prices is Putin's fault. Poland, which sits on the coal deposits, has to import coal from abroad because, in the twisted minds of politicians, decisions were made to close mines and bury them so that it would be uneconomically to reopen them again. This is a scandal. No one else in the world does it this way. This is anti-Polish policy, and personally see it as a political rape by more powerful players. Germany, for example, is building new coal-fired power plants, while Poland is burying its cleanest coal deposits, which could last for about 200 years. How can it be cheap when the economy is being driven to ruin there and the taxes are being raised to unprecedented levels? Sorry. In my opinion, this is a deliberate effort to create a global economic collapse and a tool for a great reset, but will introduce CBDC, central bank digital currency, and total surveillance. All of this, the name of ecology, in the name of ecology, or rather eco-terrorism. And meanwhile, due to the rising prices of energy carriers, as you asked, over 500,000 businesses in Poland closed down just last year. Last year. Bakeries and factories that used gas or coal for heating received bills that were even 300% higher and were forced to shut down. About prices. Look, this graphics shows the rise of price in European countries, but this shows the rise between 2021 and 2022. At 2023, the price rise again. So it's about twice as we see on this graphics. And now, yet, these prices also affect the price of electricity. We can't forget about. And those who are paying attention know very well that the prices of electricity are also rising because there are more and more electric cars. Yeah. When they run on liquid fuel, taxes were included in the fuel prices. Now that they can be charged from regular household outlets, politicians and economists won't allow cheap energy to flow into cars. We know that citizens need to be wrapped. We have a saying that governments always wants best for us. which is why we have less and less of it.
So thank you very much for your very deep answer. I have some comment for the things which you said. Maybe firstly there will be comment from our viewers
Mhm.
about the sending Leopard to Ukraine. First Leopard is already down, destroyed by Ukrainian
Yeah.
forces trained in Call of Duty. I don't
During
know.
Polish during training in Polish military base, it was broken by second tank, which was drove on it and simply destroyed.
So first thing which I would like to say is some word which I think that we need to respect a word. For example, the word patriot. I consider you like a patriot, and I respect this. But there are also the other people in Poland, for example, the ruling party, which they call themselves patriot, and I don't think that the PIS, which starting occupation Poland by the US forces, which give everything to Ukraine, which are totally dependent from the NATO to our foreign policy, that they are
Yeah.
patriots, they are the traitors. And I think also that using words to the Euro bureaucrats that they are Euro socialist, if there is something like socialism in European Union, is socialism only for the rich, for the poor people, for the working class. It's pure capitalism and pure exploitation. But of course, you have. I will not convince you, you see, and make discussion about the economic. Everybody know that we are not agree, but only I would like to say that from my perspective, using words Euro socialist for these people like I don't know, Ursula von der Leyen and other idiots from Brussels is maybe not appropriate.
By
Also,
simply traitors,
uh, they are
in my opinion, of course.
firstly they are
Mhm.
very there are some big affair, big scandal because the Ursula, like leader of the Euro Commission, make a lot of money for the Pfizer, and her husband work for Pfizer. So we have normally for this we have the elementary example of the corruption, how
Yeah.
she transfer money for her husband, but nobody care. You said in your answer when you talk about sending weapon to the east, one time you use word Ukrainian forces, and another time you said Ukraine. I don't think so that all these weapons from the Western countries go to the Ukrainian forces, because if all these weapons already go to the Ukrainian forces can win this war, because there is a lot of from 1 year all the Western countries all the time they are sending weapons, but the Ukrainians who are there, the Ukrainian soldiers, they recorded video and they ask question. For example, there were
Where is that weapon? Yeah.
yes, there. Where is this weapon? The Mazur, the Ukrainian
And we
who
can
live.
find many information, but that weapon is could be found on the dark web in
Of
the
course,
on
of
some,
course. So it
yeah,
is not going
markets.
to the Ukraine of Ukrainian forces. It's going to Ukrainian oligarch, and they resell this to Western countries or to the another places where is a war, and everybody now can buy this, and also Russian military also can buy
It's a
legally.
what I think that's a new 21st century recycling process of the
And
old post-Soviet. Yeah.
and there is also the question, which is a little more complicated. I don't know if I will capable to explain this in English, but the question how we calculate this involvement to helping Ukraine. The question is that we have some countries like USA and France which are sending weapons which are produced in this country. So USA are sending American weapons, France are sending French weapons, but Poland are sending also American weapons. So Poland is totally.
American, Germans, yeah.
Yes, yes. So Poland firstly have to buy these weapons, and after they send these weapons. And
Mhm.
these countries like France and USA, very easy. They can improve the statistic of finance involvement. For example, when they send tank, which 2 years ago cost 1 million
Yeah.
dollar. And now they can say that this tank is $3 million. So our help to Ukraine is 300 bigger, because they are not calculate this in this how many tanks, but how many money, and it's very easy
How
to
much money
make.
is value? Yeah.
Yes, it's you say that this is value now five times more. So countries like Poland and all these Eastern Europe countries, which are I think that their involvement is much more bigger than we think, because we can, Polish government don't have possibility to make this manipulation with statistic, because we are not we, but our government,
Mhm.
or the government of the Brussels, which is in Poland to represent interest of the Western countries. They are dependent the values in the market. But USA, they control these prices,
Yes, they
and maybe.
controlled every time and everything.
Okay, so now I will go to and you say also that there is some weapon. I think that it is your preferred weapon named Osa.
No, it's not my preferred weapon, but
No.
it's called so OSA in English. Wasp.
Uh, it's a joke for the Pilush who know Polish language. For me, as an immigrant who gets information about Poland from the media, the situation looks tragic. All Polish media and all politicians are saying the same thing and are bidding on who hates Russia the most and who loves Zelensky the most. Can you tell us how ordinary Poles approach supporting Ukraine? Were Warsavians favorably disposed to your demonstration?
Well, Poles initially showed a beautiful. Sorry, I will mute my voice. Poles initially showed a beautiful Slavic solidarity and willingness to help those in need. We have never tolerated harming others, just as during World War II, we were the only country where the Germans punished with the death penalty for helping Jews, and the Polish underground state punished for informing on Jews and Poles hiding Jews. That's who we are. We do not accept harming the defenseless. In addition to that, there was a massive media propaganda about the necessity of helping and accepting refugees from Ukraine. However, when the real information started to emerge through alternative channels and Poles themselves saw many hidden truths, this enthusiasm significantly slowed down. Many people, under the influence of political and media pressure, officially avoid speaking out of this topic. In whispers, they say they had enough of it, especially the sense of entitlement among Ukrainians and the privileges they have received. Privileges that put Poles in a worse position than those who arrived from the West on many levels. People are also annoyed that when Polish repatriates, Poles who found themselves outside Poland due to post war border changes, wanted to return their homeland, Poland. There was no money to bring several hundred eager families. But now, millions of refugees are being accepted without a shortage of funds. It hurts and affects my fellow countrymen deeply. So, our demonstration, which took place in Warsaw in January 2023 under the slogan, "This is not our war," gathered around 5,000 people despite difficult weather conditions and cold. Despite being blocked in the media, even manipulated to be portrayed as a pro Moscow and pro Putin's march. Such a sentence frightened many ordinary Poles. It should be remembered that there were those who explicitly said that they could not come to the march because it could result in them losing their job. Yeah, and life is already very difficult for them. Personally, I perceive this as an attack on democracy and freedom of speech, which is enshrined in the character of fundamental rights and Article 74 of the Constitution of the Republic of Poland. Despite the many pressures, it was a great success, and we received a lot of positive signals, praise, and acceptance for our actions. So, I think that was a great job.
In July, we will celebrate the sad anniversary of the Volhynia massacre, during which Nazi collaborators with the UPA murdered over 100,000 Poles. Those responsible for this crime, such as Bandera and Shuchevich, are today the heroes of modern Ukraine, and the red and black UPA flag is sewn on the uniforms of Ukrainian soldiers and even on the clothes of small children. Also, Ukrainian children who today seek shelter in Poland. Why is the Polish government not reacting to the cult of Bandera?
Oh, well, as the first president of post Soviet Ukraine, Leonid Kravchuk, said, we apologize for the brutal massacre of 500,000 Poles. And I believe that this number is closer to the truth, as it was based on documents from Ukrainian archives. And why does the Polish government not react to the cult of Bandera and the own UPA or Suchevich? I think it stems from a submassive position of politicians. It's not just the Podkarpacka scandal, as I've read about Podkarpacka affair. We also have an example of vassalage towards America. This is a more complex issue that, in my opinion, involves the planned extermination of the Ukrainian nation. But that's a discussion for a completely separate topic.
I talked with Prime Minister Nikolai Azarov. He was a prime minister to 2010 until 2014, and he said the number to 200,000.
So you see there are many counts of this tragic history. I believe in the words of the first post-Soviet president of Ukraine, because that was the moment of truth. That was the moment where everyone in that post-Soviet part of world wants to be truly, in my humble opinion.
Now let's talk about repression. Can you tell us who Wojciech Olszański is? Why is he in prison? How are basic human rights such as the right to freedom of expression violated in Poland? Do you know of any other examples of political repression? In your opinion, do Polish courts follow the orders of the government? Can you say something about the censorship? In a word, it's today's Poland a democratic country or an authoritarian or even totalitarian country where the government imposes law for Bandera Ukraine on everyone?
Sorry, I wrote down. Wojciech Olszański, my friend, is a Polish patriot, a politician who places the interest of Polish nation on the pedestal. Due to this straightforwardness, directness, and clarity, he has captivated crowds of Poles who are fed up with media bubble and polished political rhetoric. He is a statesman. In my opinion, he is a statesman who prioritizes economic growth and care for demographics. He refuses to allow Polish blood to be spilled at any cost and has warned people about it. He cautions against being drawn into upcoming wars and knows that those wars will be instigated by American forces, as it is in their interest to involve Russia in military action in order to deal with China more easily. But this is also a topic for separate discussion. And this man, Wojciech Olszański, is currently in prison because he was convicted in a political trial, a trial of which he has been not notified. So it took place without his knowledge. Thus, he was deprived of the right to defense. The trial was based on a 1 minute, only 1 minute fragment of a film cut from over 2 hour material, which means manipulated evidence. This was a material that mentioned Bill Gates wanting to leave only 500 million people on Earth, which is known worldwide as the Kill Bill slogan. This was treated as a criminal threat, and based on this edited fragment on his statement, he was sentenced to 6 months of imprisonment. Consequently, he was deprived of the right to run in the upcoming parliamentary election. This is how opposition politicians are treated. This is how the Polish government eliminates competition from democratic press. So I think that's the answer.
I will show other people which I already presented in other videos. But so this is Janusz Niedźwiecki. He is in Polish prison from June 2021. So he is almost 2 years in prison. He is not in prison. He is he is
Arrest. Mhm.
arrested. So he never know when will it will finish, and it's totally it's very similar example for the repression against Mateusz Piskorski. The same accusation that he is the Russian spy. He is a Russian spy because he work in Brussels, and he have the organization there to speaking with the Euro Parliament and speaking with Euro deputies in the Euro Parliament. It's a accusation that you are spy of Russia. Totally debil. Second example, which I would like to show, is Pablo Gonzalez.
Yeah, as the
He's
Spanish journalist. Yeah.
it's him. For all the people who are interested in this question, I invite you to watch my conversation with Bruno Drwęski, where we spoke about this um, it's all conversation about the repression in Poland. The Pablo Gonzalez, he was arrested in March 2022. He's Janusz Niedźwiecki. He is arrested. He is a citizen of Spain. He worked for the Spanish television Sexta, and he make reportage about the Ukrainian migrants in Poland for this television. And he was arrested because he is a spy for Russia, only because he speak Russian. He was born in Moscow because his family flew the Spain in the time of Franco
Mhm.
to Soviet Union. And he make reportage in Donbass. He shown to the world what's happened with the people from Donbass, how they are killed by the Ukrainian forces.
The truth
And
about war. Yeah.
yes. Only because he's talking about the true. He's showing true. The Ukraine government don't want him in Ukraine, and also put him in the list of the Soviet traitors, Russian traitors. And Poland, without with respecting with breaking of the democratic laws, the laws of also of European Union, are violating a law to freedom of speech, freedom of journalists, and stuff like this. We have also a lot of examples in last months. The people which are we have repression for the words in the social media, in Facebook, Instagram. We have Henryk Mikietin.
Mhm.
We have some Naika, the Catholic,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Influencer.
publicist, Catholic influencer, because
Yeah.
she was citating Bible, and a lot of example. I think more than 100 people.
She
Uh,
said, she said about other women, she said, and this is the only part of her program. About other women, she said, she died, and it's good, but she didn't kill her baby. In pregnancy, of course, I think I talk about the breaking pregnancy, but they also cut only the fragment of the material, and cut in the moment when she said it's good. So it sounds like she died and it's good, and cut at this moment. There is no words. It's good that the baby does wasn't killed. Uh, and in that case also, that cutted fragment of film from longer material, uh, which means what that was manipulated evidence. Exactly the same situation is about our friend from our party, Rodacy Kamraci, so-called Rodacy Kamraci. Our friend Power Kondratowicz is also in the jail, or rather arrested, temporarily arrested, without end of term of arrest, because of short material, cut it, manipulated, changed words. And that shows how the government eliminates competitors from the democratic process.
So I think that we can use this possibility that we are speaking in English to call for the solidarity from other countries, from the countries of the European Union and the United
Mhm.
States, but maybe also the bigger chance that somebody will help us, or will be talk about this. I call to the freedom of speech from Belarus, from Russia, from China. Talked about these people because arresting somebody and taking him 2 years in jail, it's pushing him to suicide or to destroy him.
Yeah, it's very
It's
big
it's
risk. Yeah.
barbaric. It's barbaric. It's totalitarian method. So I hope that the people who are agree with me, the communists, but also the honest people from all over the world, talk about the repression in Poland, talk about Wojciech Olszański, about the Pablo Gonzalez, about Janusz Niedźwiecki, and many other cases. Unfortunately, it's very, very important. We need your support, and your support. We are not begging for money. We are not. We are only asking you to help us to spread this information that Poland now in 2023 is a totalitarian state, and they arresting people for freedom of speech, violating freedom of speech.
Yeah, you know, in Poland, the right of freedom of speech practically does not function in those speeches do not align with the official government propaganda. This can be seen on many levels, starting from social media, where expression contrary to the system and official politics often results in bans or even account deletions, but has gone either further. In the Poland, over 100 special prosecutors have been appointed to prosecute hate speech. You know, the hate speech is a new game changer. One as politician said, we have a specific institutional architecture in our country that ensures that all manifestations of racial, ethnic, national, and religious hatred are effectively prosecuted and condemned, so the preventive action are taken. Under the fact of these seemingly just slogans, there is a whole system of silencing people and depriving them of the right to freedom of speech.
And in the same time, the Polish government media are one of the most hated media which existed in the world. All the time they are going, we will destroy Russia, we will destroy Putin. It's a lot of hate in every material in the media, in the government media, but also in the corporate media, TVN, in all the Polish media and also politicians. They are using hate speech all the time, and they are totally hypocrite, but they we are against hate speech. It's hypocrisy level hard.
You know, I think the Polish government is criticized for its influence on the independence of the judiciary and questionable verdicts. There is a concern that Poland is spiraling into vicious cycle of totalitarianism, as I said, where it becomes incongruously fearful of criticism and exerts pressure on opposition cycles, moving towards actions of totalitarian nature, in my opinion, of course.
Yeah. Finally, I would like to ask you about your attitude towards much larger anti-war demonstration in other European countries. As a Polish nationalist, do you think you should cooperate with the anti-war movement in Germany, Czech Republic, or even in America? Would you like guests from other countries such as Scott Ritter to appear to the next demonstration you organize? Any chance your delegation will go to anti-war demonstration in Prague or Berlin? Is it a problem for you that the recent demonstration in Germany were organized by left-wing leader Sarah Wagenknecht? Would you like to other countries to fight for freedom for Wojciech Olszański? And could your movement fight for freedom for similar repressed people?
Mhm. I'm glad that anti-war protests are emerging in the other Europeans country, and as we understand, that was not our war. The large number of protesters shows that there were many people who think seasonally. Let's not forget that were are even more people who are afraid and are waiting for the scales to tip so that their voice does not threaten their status. We are open to guests from our countries, and having a well-known and articulate figure like Scott Reed, as you mentioned, it, would be a unique event. Not many are as brave as Ritter and others like him to speak directly and call things by their name. And you know, the fact that people with different political views participate in anti-war movement is not a hindrance. It is rather evidence that even though we may have drastically different opinions on economic business on sorry in economic business or environmental matters, we share common goals when it comes to the most important issue, human life and demographics. We refuse to be cannon footer. I think it's as simple. As a Polish writer, Maria Konopnicka once wrote in a poem, it's a only fragment of this poem, and in war, as in war, people fall like sheaves, and the kings fight bravest, and the peasants die thickest. We know that this is not a war for freedom. We know it, but a war for money. That's why we repeat this is not our war. As mentioned earlier, Wojciech Olszański echoes even the worst day of peace is more beautiful than the most beautiful day of war. So, you know, I would like to seek supporter for release and acquittal of Wojciech Olszański. This means deserves it wholeheartedly. We will bring this matter to the European Court of Human Rights. We know that procedures there can take years, but this man simply deserves full rehabilitation, in my opinion, of course. But in the opinion other people too. I believe that this will be another step in the fight for freedom for other individuals who are represented solely for expressing their views. We have to remember Poles are known for not begging or pleading for their freedom. We fight for our freedom, and that's we will prevail. That's my words, my opinion, and I'm sure of it. We will prevail because we fight for our freedom.
You mentioned the poem of Maria Konopnicka.
Yeah.
It's written in Polish language, but I make quick translation to
Mhm.
English. And there is the first words like this. And when the king went to war, I think that we can change this word king to Morawiecki, Duda,
Yeah, yeah, of
Zelensky,
course.
Biden, Ursula or other. And when the Zelensky went to war, armed trumpets played for him, gold trumpets played for him, for victory, for desire. And
Yeah, we
when
have to add information that the Maria Konopnicka is a poetry which lives in by 18th, 19th century, sorry, 19th, 20th century. So it's much, much earlier. And but we know the history is going around and around and around, and cycling around. So if we don't know history, we will live in that history again in the future.
Okay, it's all the question which I prepared before, but there is one very important question which is now happening in Poland. It's
Mhm.
the protest of peasants, protest of farmers, because of the importation of the agricultural stuff from Ukraine. I would like to remind our public that 1 year ago, they starting to say that there will be hunger in Africa, and we need to do everything because the Black Sea is blocked. So Ukraine wanted to transfer this agriculture stuff. It's the wheat, the corn, the other stuff. Ukraine was always the one of the better places for agriculture, and is very big productor of agriculture. And from 1 year, these things are transferred from Poland. The idea was that it will go to the Baltic Sea, and after will go to Africa, to Middle East or another places where they wanted to buy it. But unfortunately, they were not on it, and they sell this in Poland, and it provoked a lot of problems for Polish peasants, for Polish farmers. We have the Polish farmers since many months. They blocked the Ukrainian Polish border. And what do you think about this movement?
Wait a moment, please. Okay. The movement is very important, but Polish government against are lying us. They said, "Stop! We don't import no more technical grain." As they call it, at exactly at the same moment when they say it, the Polish police police staying on the road and not allow Polish farmers to check what is in the train which transport that technical grain. And wait a moment, please. I have to check the language version of that name. Oh, okay. Now they call it mill clove to clean the mill, but it's still the same grain, the same products from the Ukrainian. It's not only problem of the grain. It's also problem of the meat products. The truth is that the Ukrainians have great soil, and yet they spray chemicals to the power, and that products are absolutely out of any norms. They make the big money, and the truth is the oligarch make money of it, not normal people. So the more the prices of the grain, the prices of that meal is much lower than in Poland, but prices of the products from that grain and that meals is growing and growing. It's that grows over 50-40%. So the question is, who made that money, and why some people's knows before it was officially in information that there is something like technical grain. Nobody knows before it was so loudly spoken in Polish TV in information.
Wait,
Is
wait,
it?
wait. I will
Yeah.
explain what the people watch now. That in last Saturday there was information. The Jarosław Kaczyński announced that this import will be stopped, but
Yeah, and as I
it
said,
was recorded.
exactly at this same moment, Polish policemen prevent from farmers to not allow these trains came into Poland. They still came into Poland through Polish border with special Polish forces protected that trains, and now they only change the name. It is not the technical grain. Now it is a milk loaf. So, but inside this train, this there is a still technical. There is a grain without any norms.
Okay, so thank you very much for our conversation. One more time, I appeal to the viewers from all over the world. Spread information about the repression in Poland, about Wojciech Olszański, who is in prison, about Janusz Niedźwiecki, about
Yeah.
the Pablo González, the journalist from Spain, and many other examples of repression against people who are against this NATO war narration. Um, thank you, Marcin. Tell me, what will be the next step for the fighting of your activity? Do you organize another anti-war demonstration?
Yes, we will organize the next anti-war demonstration, the 1st May of 2023, in a very characteristic place of the Europe, the place where the three borders coming into one point. In that place came Czech, German, and Polish borders. That this
Could you show some photo here? Where is
Yes,
it?
I could show it, but give me a moment. I have to prepare uh, because I didn't prepared before our program. So give me a moment. I will show it on Google Earth. Yes, it's opening. Okay. So, okay. Uh, that is Europe. You see here Germany, Poland, and Czech, and the meeting will
Ah, it's not very
uh,
visible. Maybe I
yeah,
will
meeting
find.
will be uh, on this corner here. Uh, it's called the place where borders of three countries coming. Here is Czech, Poland, and Germany. Mm, okay, let me show that place. Here is the point. Here is this point where we met at Polish, Czech, and Germany places, and at this place near the city called Porajów, or better known Bogatynia, where is the
Mine.
yes mine. We will meet at the 1st May 2023 with a few thousands of Czech, Germans, and Poles. So so what could I say? Come here and show our fight for our freedom. Show that we are not agree to this war because it's not our war. This is war for money, not for freedom.
Thank you very much, Marcin.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you again, and I
And see
hope
you
for
in
next. Yeah,
Porajów, 1st May.
see you in Porajów at the 1st May. At the 1st May in Porajów, we will meet also our great man Wojciech Olszański, which here is in virtually at Porajów. He will be physically. I hope.
I hope